Welcome to the Hypnosis Education Association's HypnoConnect, our monthly interactive meeting where we discuss the uses and benefits of hypnosis, the misconceptions and fears of hypnosis techniques, and where we feature hypnosis practitioners who share their expertise. Hi, my name is Sean Bray, HEA's Vice President, and in a moment, HEA's President and my wonderful wife and business partner, Melanie McCool, will join us. Our mission here at the HEA is to offer knowledge and education of the nature, uses, and benefits of hypnosis to professional hypnotists and to the general public, to reduce misconceptions and fears about hypnosis, and to establish and promote a hypnosis code of ethics. We host an online conference each year featuring experts in hypnosis. Our educational events provide professional hypnotists with continuing education units like this one. Our Public Outreach Committee submits monthly Associated Press releases about the positive uses and benefits of hypnosis, and we host monthly meetings like this one. Our members are adults with an interest in hypnosis, experienced and novice professionals, and retirees in the field of hypnosis. We welcome members from all over the world. Our presenters share things they find are working for them in their hypnosis practice. Many offer special certifications or licensing to use copyrighted protocols, so be sure to ask before adopting. Today, we're excited to introduce Tim Box. Tim is a remedial hypnotist, author, public speaker, and creator of the Control System, a method that utilizes hypnotic techniques and phenomena without the need for formal trance or induction processes. He spent the last decade running a full-time therapeutic practice in the UK and training others in his method. Tim has now trained more than 100 control practitioners globally. In just a moment, Tim will present practical ways of working without trance, a session perfect for those intrigued by the possibilities of non-trance-based hypnotherapy. This presentation will cover the essentials of a fast and effective method of change that eliminates the need for traditional trance elements. Tim will teach how to transform trance-based interventions into direct, dynamic, free-flowing communication with the client's subconscious. We'll let Tim take over things here in just a moment, but for now, your hosts for HypnoConnect, your HEA President, Melanie McCool, and HEA's Vice President, yours truly, Sean Bray.
Well, I'd love to say my husband's here, but he's actually not. So you're just getting Melanie McCool, President, and Tim Box today. Hello and welcome, Tim. We are so thrilled to have you today.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Melanie.
Yeah, I am really interested in what you have to share. And I was just in a session that was only about 35 minutes on a topic that might be similar. And I came back to use that with my clients.
Nice.
And I have been actually just kind of like knocking phobias out of the park with it. It's pretty wild. So I'm really excited about what you have to share. And I'm sure you'll have some practical things for our members and those who are interested in hypnosis, who might think that hypnosis has to be one way or another. So thank you so much for being here today. And for those of you who are here, Tim is going to give our presentation and we're going to open for Q&A, bring you all on because this is all about you. So thank you so much, Tim. I'll let you take it over.
No problem. Thank you very much, Melanie. As I say, pleasure to be here. Pleasure to see so many people in the room as well. If you want to keep your camera off, that's fine. If you want to put your camera on as well, that'd be awesome because then I can see some faces rather than just some still shots and some names on the screen. It'll help me realize whether my jokes are going down well or appallingly. So, but you don't have to. It's up to you guys. Right. Yeah. So what I'm going to try and do today, take you through, I've got like 45 minutes, which anyone that knows me, I can tend to go off on a tangent and waffle. So I've really got to do what I don't normally do, which is really keep it like, streamlined and stay on topic. So what I am going to say is I want you to feel free as we go through to ask if something like pops into your mind, you're like, I need to ask that of Tim right now. He needs to clarify that. Then please interrupt. Otherwise there will be time for questions at the end. Okay. So, Here we go then. First thing you probably need to know about me. Can I just get a raise of hands if anyone's actually heard me speak before or seen anything by me, or if I'm literally talking to a complete... Oh, we got a couple that actually know of me. Wow, that does my ego the world of good. I appreciate that. So, well, let me tell you a little bit about me. So yeah, I've been doing this about 13 years now. I need to update my bio because it said like 10 years, but I've been running a full-time practice in the southeast of England, just outside London. And yeah, I call myself a remedial hypnotist, or a mind coach I'm using a lot now. I don't know whether that's just because it seems more YouTube friendly, and a lot of the advice I give is out on YouTube because I work a lot with anxiety issues. But anyway, that's where we are. And I've got 130 practitioners trained in my method being a non-trance but direct phenomena-based hypnosis method. So people say, oh, it's non-trance, so is it conversational hypnosis? And it's kind of, it is a conversation, but it's not conversational hypnosis because it doesn't use like language patterns, or it isn't attempting to do anything covert. It's all out in the open, direct phenomena-based communication with the subconscious. So I want to talk to you about how that works, and also a little bit about how it came about, because I think the first thing you probably need to know is, why am I doing non-trance stuff? To know that, you need to know where I came from. Okay, so about 15 years ago, I was a plumber. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Oh, yes, the age-old tale, that career transition from plumber to hypnotist. But for me, it was an essential transition because I was a very specific type of plumber, and that is a very bad plumber. Don't get me wrong, my cousin is an excellent plumber, my dad is an excellent plumber, and I was working in the family plumbing business, but I was not a good plumber. It was definitely not my calling. And then at some point, my dad said to me, hey, Tim, you know what? I'm going to retire next year. I want to hand the plumbing business over to you. Like he hadn't noticed how appalling I was at it. But anyway, and that just scared the absolute bejesus out of me, because I thought, I don't want to be retiring from my plumbing business when I get to 65 years old. I want to do something else, because I don't want to be doing something I'm rubbish at for the rest of my life. So, and you know, to be fair, plumbing was a weird thing for me to do. You know, I studied philosophy at university, things like that. I was much more of a conceptual thinker than I was a hands-on doer. Still am, to be fair. I'm a little bit better at DIY than I used to be. Still not great at it. I did say I go off on tangents, didn't I? Anyway, point being was that this kind of lit a fire up my backside to say, right, you've got to find something different. You've got to do something different with your life here. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck here, not enjoying life. So I kind of rediscovered an interest in hypnosis for whatever reason. Yeah. And I'd been interested in it when I was studying philosophy, and for some reason it came into my awareness. I don't know if this resonates with you guys, but there's, you know, you see a YouTube video or you read something in a journal, you know, there's something that just brings it into your awareness. And because there's a bit of your mind that's looking for something, a bit of you says, that's interesting. Let's have a look in that direction. And I discovered a guy called John Chase. Saw some of his videos online, and it just resonated with me, the way he was talking about it. Interestingly enough, a few years later, I ended up disagreeing with John about most of things to do with hypnosis. But you know, I guess that's the way with mentors, isn't it? You don't just copy them, you take on their learnings and then you do something different with them. And John became my hypnosis mentor. Sadly, we lost John literally just a couple of months ago. Very, very sad for me. Very, you know, be like losing a hypno dad. But anyway, I race ahead here. I went on a weekend training with John, literally down the road. I think it was Croydon that I went to, and it just blew my mind. You know, it showed me things I didn't realize were possible. I remember calling my partner just before I left the hotel to come home, saying, "Oh my God, I've got magic powers! I can't believe it! You know, this stuff is just amazing." And to say that weekend changed my life would be an understatement, because it absolutely fundamentally changed the direction of it. It made me realize what could be done, what is possible. I thought I would have to do, you know, a psychology degree and then specialize in hypnosis before you got to hypnotize somebody. And here we were, lunchtime on day one, we were sticking people to things, you know, and I was like, that's incredible, isn't it? That's really, but I guess that's the point, is that I was always taught phenomena as the first step into hypnosis. I was always taught about, ideomotor response. I was taught about subconscious dominance. I was taught it wasn't about, you don't start with relaxation. You don't start with close your eyes and imagine. You get a phenomena and then you take it from there. So I was taught a very specific way. Now, I should say I didn't do anything tremendously groundbreaking with this in the first couple of years of knowing hypnosis. I didn't do anything therapeutic with it. I had a friend called Gemma who I would practice my new hypnosis skills on. She liked the experience of being hypnotized. I liked the experience of being the hypnotist. And we would just, stick her hand to the table, get her to forget her name, that sort of stuff. I think the same year I learned some magic tricks. I learned how to juggle. It wasn't really, it wasn't the high, I don't know, what would you call it? Like the deep stuff. Yeah. But then she asked me, she said, Tim, why don't you do something useful with this? And this was actually at a time when she was, we were sitting in the pub and she had her hand stuck to the table. And my response to that question was, I believe I am doing something useful with it, Gemma, as you try and lift your hand now. But her point was, no, she said, I'm getting married in a couple of months, as you know, and I don't want to be wearing false nails because they're uncomfortable. But the problem is I bite my nails really, really badly. And I could see her nails when they're on, and when somebody's bitten their nails to the point where they don't look like they should anymore, they're gnawed back to the quick. And that's what the state her nails were in. And I said, look, I don't know how to do anything like that. I wouldn't know how to go about it. Probably it would be unethical to even try, wouldn't it? So let's have a go then, shall we? And just for right or wrong, I just thought, well, let's see what happens. So I just did it the way I'd been taught to do hypnosis. You hypnotize somebody, you tell them, I told her that she doesn't bite her nails anymore. And when you open your eyes, all that sort of thing. I was wide awake. She looked at me and she said, well, that didn't work, did it? I was like, no, probably not. Let's just forget all about this, shall we? Let's never speak of this again. But then a couple of weeks later, she was round our house and she came up to me and she said, I forgot to tell you, by the way, Tim, all my nails have grown back. So I haven't touched them since we did the session. And I was like, brains on the floor moment. I remember having to leave the room because I felt like I was going to burst into tears. And I think probably that was the moment when learning to stick people to tables and wanting to do something therapeutic with this kind of collided. And there's that the sun shone through the window in a different way on me and all that sort of thing. And I just thought, right, that's what I should be doing. So it wasn't just escaping the horrific plumbing business I'd ended up in, but now it was actually having a purpose to move forward with. And as a result, I worked very, very, very hard to start a business, to actually make it my living. Because obviously, as you can imagine, it's fairly easy to make a living as a plumber because the world needs plumbers. Everyone needs their water supply maintained. You've never heard somebody say, you know what, come rain or shine, come boom or bust, the world will always need hypnotists. Yeah, nobody says that because that's not generally the attitude of people. So to change from plumbing to hypnosis, I had to make it work. I couldn't just, I had to provide a full-time income. So that's what I did. And, the thing about it is when you work really hard at something and you suddenly it becomes your business, you notice the areas of it that you don't feel are necessary. You notice the areas of it that you feel are redundant and have you working harder than you need to. And I kind of fell out of love with the trance process very quickly because the first thing I'd learned about hypnosis from John, the first thing I ever did, I did a hand lock, stuck someone's hands together. And they weren't in a trance. They weren't eyes closed. They weren't relaxed. They were just saying, this is really weird. I can't take my hands apart right now. Okay. So there was a bit of me that was like, what's all the trance stuff about then? And I get you probably sitting there as hypnotist just saying, yeah, but Tim, everything is a state of trance. We go from different states of trance. That was a trance. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I'm talking about not using the formal eyes closed, you are going into hypnosis, hypnotic trance side of it. Okay. Before you try and get me on a technicality here. Yeah. So the point being, I got very busy, was doing a lot of sessions and the trance stuff was starting to become, I don't know, I didn't feel it was necessary. Okay. Now, there are three main reasons, though, why I decided to abandon trance completely, roughly 2 years in. Okay. The first one was I got really, really tired of people doing this thing where they open their eyes at the end of the session and they say one of two things. They either say, oh, I don't know if I was hypnotized or not because I could hear everything you were saying, you know, as if that would be a bad thing. Or they might say, oh, I don't know if I was hypnotized or not because I don't remember any of it. I think I just fell asleep. Yeah, there wasn't every session, but I got tired of having to manage people's expectations of what they thought they were going to experience in hypnotic trance. Yeah, especially as I don't know what the hell they're meant to experience in a hypnotic trance because everyone's different, aren't they? So how can I give you a categorical answer except to say, look, whatever you're experiencing is probably right, whilst at the same time thinking, and yet probably unnecessary. Yeah. So that got a little bit tiring for me. Talking of tiring, that was the main thing here. The fact I was having to do protracted, drawn out trance sessions, relaxy, deeper and deeper, etc., etc. And there's a bit of me during that process thinking, I don't think this is necessary. I think this is redundant. I think we can get access to your subconscious very quickly, very easily. And maybe what we're doing here is just doing a bit of pantomime and a bit of ritual. Now, there's nothing wrong with a bit of ritual. I realize it can serve us. It can be in our favor, can't it? That's part of the process of it in terms of the expectations of the client being met. And, you know, they want the trance experience. I get all of that. I get all of those arguments totally. But of course, when the ritual is no longer serving us, then it becomes a problem. It's no longer helping us. It's becoming the hindrance. And I'll tell you something right now. I was seeing clients 5 days a week all day. And I recognized at some point that if I had to do this for the rest of my career, this was how I have to run a therapeutic practice for the rest of my career. In about a year's time, I'm going to be looking to do something different. I'm going to be looking for a different profession. Yeah, it wasn't the talking to people about anxiety, depression, self-esteem, all that sort of stuff. It was the actual ritual part of the hypnosis process that was draining me. Yeah. So that's why I sort of, abandoned it. But the other reason, and probably the most important reason why I got rid of the trance process, is because it is disempowering to the client. Now, this might be a bit, I think this is the problem for us hypnotherapists, is that every form of therapy and every therapist at some point in their conversation with their clients is going to say, it's about you making the changes, not me. Or, a good therapist that recognizes what we're here to do. Yeah, we want to make sure the client is empowered when they're finished. I can do I can take on whatever challenges arise now. I'm not simply a leaf on the breeze. I have agency. That's the point of it. And yet then we do lay on the couch, close your eyes, drift off to sleep. When you wake up, everything will be fixed. Yeah. So it doesn't matter how much we say it's about empowering you, the client. We then do something that directly counteracts that is not congruent with that spiel, if you like, because we then do something to the client. And I know we're saying, no, we're just guiding you and it's your mind doing it. I get all of that. But if we're encouraging them to drift into a trance where their subconscious is doing it and not their conscious, then we're kind of suggesting that we're doing something to them that they're not in control of, but they trust us to do to them. A bit like when we go for surgery or something. And the surgeon puts us out, but we're happy with that because they're going to fix us in some way. So I wanted to work in a way that I felt, was empowering for the client. Yeah. If that makes sense. Right. So what I want to do, I'm just going to share my screen. And again, it's just, Melanie made the point, is this just so that you can keep on track, Tim? And I think it might be. I'm just going to use a little bit of, if I can find the PowerPoint. Okay. So you can see that big ominous logo there. Everyone can see that, yeah? Okay. Right. Why no trance? That's what I've explained. Right. How can we work without trance then? Right. I think to work without trance, you need to let go of 3 ideas that I certainly felt I was given as like presuppositions a little bit of hypnosis in the early days, or certainly I've heard them as presuppositions or just like assertions. Okay. First thing I think we need to let go of the idea that hypnosis is the cure. Yeah. That it's the hypnosis that's doing the good stuff here. Yeah. Now I saw a talk given by Irving Kirsch back in my early days as a practitioner. And he was talking about, if you don't know how to work with a client for like anxiety, say, without hypnosis, you shouldn't be working with them with hypnosis. Yeah. And that was quite challenging to me, because I'm like, well, funny enough, Irvin, all I've got is bloody hypnosis, you know, so what am I meant to do about that then? Yeah. But then you realize what he's talking about is that the reacting agent is not the hypnosis. Hypnosis is how we deliver the answer. It's not the answer itself. Yeah. So if we can let go of that idea that it's in some way the quality of the hypnosis that's delivering the medicating agent, if you like, or something like that, then we can start to take things a little bit further. I think we can start to give the client a better understanding of what's going on with them. Yeah, I've never been fond of the idea it's because of the hypnosis, the master tool of hypnosis, that you're going to get fixed now. Second thing to let go of, depth of hypnosis matters. One of the first things I remember John telling me is there is no depth, really. It's a bit of a misconception that we go deeper into hypnosis. Now, I know this sort of flies in the face of people like Ellman and stuff like that. If it didn't work, you weren't hypnotized enough, you weren't deep enough. And it flies in the face of a lot of models that say there's all these levels of hypnosis where you can get access to different phenomena based on how deep you are. I'm just going to ask you to entertain the idea that what if that wasn't the case? What if everything we needed was accessible at the first level, just the connection with the subconscious? Okay, so I've got a really complicated model of trance that I work with. Complicated in inverted commas, meaning not complicated at all. I see it this way, yeah. If we've got our conscious mind here, which is the bit we're aware of, obviously, the logical, rational reasoning part of us, we've got our subconscious beneath the surface here doing all the amazing, wonderful thing, hundreds and hundreds of things all at once, emotional, imaginative, creative, that kind of thing. We are looking to create something I would refer to as subconscious dominance, where your subconscious is to the fore. So we can deal directly with your subconscious, not just your conscious. Now, if we do something to stimulate the subconscious, emote, imagine, things like that, we might go subconsciously dominant. Okay, and that's what we're looking to do with hypnosis. If we then start to say, and close your eyes and drift off and relax and go deeper and deeper, we're not going deeper into the subconscious. The subconscious is either dominant or not dominant. We're just backing off the conscious attention here. We're encouraging the client's conscious to just, hey, you got nothing to do here. You can just drift off, you can relax. When clients tell us that felt like a really deep session, what they're really telling us, I think I drifted there. I'm not consciously aware of every moment of that, because their conscious has just, gone for a ride somewhere else. Okay. Now, if you think of it like that, then it takes away the need, if this we're calling depth isn't going deeper into the subconscious, but actually just backing off the conscious, then it doesn't matter how deep we go into the subconscious, because all we need to do is deal directly with that part of your thinking. Once we've got that, everything else is, redundant, as I'm saying. I should say as well, if anyone's finding any of these ideas challenging or is rejecting them wholesale, then freaking go for it. That's okay for me. I'll tell you what I think, and some people will like it, some people won't. That's the way of life, isn't it? Okay, the final idea I think you need to let go of, the subconscious is all about safety. That came out of nowhere, didn't it? That's a bit like, that's the odd one out there. One of these ideas is doing his own thing. The idea, we get told this, don't we, that the subconscious mind is there to keep us safe. Survival is the primary function. That's why we have fears, even though we don't want to have fears. That's why we have anxieties, even though we just want to enjoy life, that kind of thing. Here's the reason why I think we are better off putting the focus elsewhere. I think safety is important, but I think safety is only important because it's a key component element to what your mind is actually primarily hunting for: happiness. Whatever happiness is to you. I don't mean immediate pleasure. I mean happiness as a grand scheme of things here. Yeah, the what we would regard as the good stuff. Okay. Now, as I say, safety is important, but only because it's like a key ingredient of the cake we call happiness. You can't feel happy if you don't feel safe. Simple as that. Yeah, it has to be there. But we know happiness is probably a greater primary motivator than simple safety, because if it weren't, then you wouldn't see people leaping out of aeroplanes just for the lols. Yeah, because it's safer not to leap out of an aeroplane when it's in the air. Bungee jumping wouldn't be a thing. you know, because it's safer not to jump off of a bridge with an elastic band tied around your ankles. Not as thrilling, I'm told. I'm not going to find out, but that's what I'm told. Yeah, exactly. I think we can all reject bungee jumping wholesale. Thank you very much. But you know, that's it. It's exciting. It's a thrill. It's a rush. But it's a lot safer not to do it, isn't it? But I think the most important example here, if safety were the only focus of your subconscious, the primary, then you wouldn't see people ending their own existence. Your subconscious wouldn't allow it. It would be impossible. Yeah. And when does your subconscious actually instigate it? When you no longer see the possibility of any future happiness. Yeah. And I think this is why it's a good idea to work on the premise that the bit of the mind we are talking to is already looking for the best route forwards towards happiness. There's a good quote by a gentleman called John Shedd, which I quote a lot, and that is that a ship in harbour is safe, but that's not what ships are built for. Yeah. And I think that idea inspires us because it speaks to a part of us that knows, I want to be more than just existing on this planet. Yeah. Talking of ships, let's talk about the ship analogy, which I talk about all the time, which if anyone knows anything about me will have heard me spoke about already, probably many times. This is how I simplify things for my clients. If we think of our mind like a ship, every ship has a captain and a crew. And in this analogy, the captain is the logical, conscious part of our thinking. It's our, you know, point of immediate focus, a bit that we're using to pay attention to each other. It knows where we're going, why we're going there, how we're going to get there, that kind of thing. Yeah, you are captain of your ship effectively. But unfortunately, of course, the part of our mind that has its hands on all the things that steer and sail our ship, that's the crew, and that's your subconscious. Now, in an ideal world, your crew would just be listening to your captain. You'd say, right, I want to go there, do that, achieve that. The crew would say, aye, aye, captain. And the crew would do everything they could to get us there. And by the way, your crew steer your ship by triggering emotions. Okay. So if we perceive danger, our crew will trigger the emotion of fear. And that discomfort that we feel with fear will encourage us to move away from the dangerous thing, to return to comfort. If we've been wronged, our crew might trigger anger. And it will inspire us to take action to right the wrong. Yeah. So the way I see this is that ultimately our crew are trying to find the best strategy for the most happiness. Okay. And we're simply trying to remove the barriers that are stopping them getting there at the moment. All those barriers that are based on things we've learned along the way, ideas that limit and restrict us. If we assume your crew are always looking for the best route to happiness anyway, we don't have to be covert. We don't have to trick any part of your mind. We don't have to implement this magical hypnosis thing where I'm going to reprogram your mind. We just have to work out how to remove those barriers. And to do that, all we need to do is have a direct conversation with the part of you that put the barriers up. So basically, you've got a crew member aboard your ship which is doing something that isn't sailing us in the direction the captain wants to go. Let's have a chat with that part. Yeah. Change is effectively a conversation. That's what I'm always looking to do when I'm working with clients. Reduce the whole change process into a direct conversation with the client's subconscious mind. Yeah. Makes sense to everyone so far? Good stuff. Good stuff. Right. So let's come out of that. You're like, that was all you did the PowerPoint for, just to show us a list. Like I say, it kept me on track. So, right. Okay. So but this is called practical ways of working without trance. Okay. So let's do some actual things. So do some stuff. Yeah. Should we have a go at that? Should we all have a go at that together? I know you're all sort of chilled out. What is it? Afternoon for most of you in the States. It's evening time for me here. So, you know, that's why I've got a cup of tea. That's why I've pushed back my dinner for a little bit long, just, you know. So let's have a go at some stuff then. Right. Who has done idiomotor responses before? Give us a little wave of the hand. Okay. Now, I'm guessing you've probably done them as part of a hypnosis session. You know, you put someone in trance, you can get idiomotor responses. Yeah. Finger movements, were they what they were? Or were they other things? It could be anything, an idiomotor response, couldn't it? Yeah. Could be a little finger. Some people use head nods as an idiomotor response, you know, which I'm not as big on, because I think we do head nods. we're too attached to that already, if you know what I mean. It's a very conscious thing when we ask people to nod their head in trance and things like that. And I'm kind of want to make sure that we're getting a subconscious, direct phenomena-based ideomotor response rather than something the person's doing, you know, just because they're used to doing it consciously. You know what I mean? But anyway, let's do some out of trance ideomotor responses then. Okay, shall we? So for you, those of you that never done this before, this will be fun because, well, you haven't done it before. But those of you that have done it before, this will be fun as well because you've done it before. And so you know what you're doing. So all I want you to do, your non-dominant hand. So the right-handers, this will be your left hand. For left-handers, this will be your right hand. Now, I know that you probably didn't think I needed to explain what your non-dominant hand was, but you'd be surprised. You get a room full of people, you never know, okay? So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to put my left hand here on my shoulder. And if I can get all of you guys to do that, and this is kind of just so that we can, you know, we can all see each other's hands now, can't we? Yeah. So let's do that with our fingers. Yeah, that's us consciously, deliberately wiggling our fingers. We can agree on that, can't we? Yeah. Okay, so don't consciously or deliberately move them for the next couple of minutes, because we're going to see if we can get your subconscious mind to move them instead. Now I'll explain what I mean by this. And again, I'm sort of talking you through it as I would talk to a client here. If I were in that room with you there, I could literally reach over, lift one of your fingers off your shoulder there. You'd have nothing to do with that finger lifting up because it'd be me lifting up, wouldn't it? Now, surprise, surprise, your subconscious is capable of being that invisible or imaginary hand that just reaches over and lifts a finger off your shoulder. So let's ask it to do that now and see what happens, okay? I'm speaking to everyone's subconscious mind now, and I would like your subconscious mind simply to do something very, very simple for us, just to take control, one of the fingers or the thumb of that hand that's resting on your shoulder. When it has complete and independent control of that finger or thumb, I just want it to move it, to lift it, if you like, just as a way of signaling that, hey, I understand, and I'm taking part and getting involved. Okay. Now, sometimes this will start with a feeling. Sometimes there'll be no feeling involved at all, and it will just happen out of nowhere, as if by magic, as it were. This is where we check and see if anyone's subconscious has actually been taking part, paying attention, or is just annoyed by the English bloke. Okay. Okay, I think I can see. Kesh, have you got your index finger there moving? You're not doing that consciously or deliberately, are you? Good stuff. Well done. Nice one. Because you've all got one hand free. Give me, because I'm a bit far away here, and I don't even mean because I'm in England. I mean because, you know, there's a lot of people on the screen. If you've got any movement, I can see. You've got your index finger moving as well. Yeah, lovely stuff. Well done. And you can raise your hand because I can't necessarily see if you've got your finger moving. Raise it. Oh, Melanie, have you got yours moving?
I definitely felt it, and I was like. And then I tried to take my attention away from it because I was like, I don't want to do it on purpose. And when I did, it did. You probably didn't see it. That's okay. Because the more I think about it, of course, then I'm like, oh, don't do it consciously. Don't do it consciously.
Yeah,
but it definitely, I felt it. It was wiggly and it did its thing.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Right, anyone else raise your hand if you got a little finger movement there? How are we doing? Okay, yep. Toya, you've got one. Good stuff. You're yeah, Joe, you have as well. Good stuff. Well done, everyone. Okay. Now, okay, shake your hands out. Just go, you know, out demon. There we go. Lovely stuff. Well done. Now, so this is, I know this is real simple stuff. This is real sort of day one ideomotor work stuff, but you'd be surprised how how few people do this out of trance. As Melanie described, there's a little bit of this conflict as in, is it conscious, is it subconscious? But you'd be surprised how quickly and easily it is to work out with a client whether it's conscious or subconscious, and how you get them just let it happen. Just don't get involved consciously. Yeah, you don't have to drift off or be unconscious to be subconsciously dominant. And that's what we're checking for there. So as you guys that use ideomotor responses will know, we get one movement for yes, we get one movement for no, a different finger, something like that. And now I can ask questions and I can find out how I can be of help. I'm a big believer that the first thing about making a change is not simply to put someone in a trance and tell their subconscious what it's going to do. The first thing is about giving that part the means to tell us what's going on. Yeah, to feel heard. Okay. And if that part feels heard, then it's much more likely to be open to new ideas. Okay. So the way that I do the sessions, the way that I work with the client is by deciding where we are at the moment, where we want to be, and what are the barriers in the way that stops us making that natural, hey, this looks better, upgrade. that we've done thousands and thousands of times in our life. Okay. And then we have a conversation to remove those barriers based on maybe the reasons why we have them there, the things that we learned, why we learned them, why we're still applying them, that kind of stuff. Okay. But if your fingers weren't moving, you're thinking, well, obviously it doesn't work for me. I'll tell you right now, about 9 out of 10 clients that you see will be able to do this without any sort of trance, without eyes closed off the bat. Yeah, in a group environment, it's always a little bit different. I'm always expecting somewhere downwards from 50% of the people to get that in the just the few seconds that we've got there. Okay, but one-to-one, where you've actually been able to chat with the client one-to-one, you've got to build rapport, that sort of thing. About 9 out of 10 people can do it just fine. Okay. But there are other ways of doing it if they can't do it. So for example, for you people that know you're good visualizers, if I can get you to look at my hand, and all I want you all to do now is just imagine there's a ball in my hand, and just raise your hand when you can see the ball. Okay. Cassandra, what color's the ball? I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself there. Sorry.
Yellow.
Yellow. Okay. Rachel, you saw it as well. What color is the ball?
Red.
Red. Okay, I'm going to click my fingers, Cassandra and Rachel, and the ball's going to change color. Cassandra, what color is it now?
Red.
And Rachel?
Blue.
Blue. I'm going to click my fingers again, and it's going to change to the color that means yes. Cassandra?
White.
White. Rachel?
Purple.
Purple. And now the color that means no? Cassandra?
Red.
Rachel?
Yellow.
Yellow. Okay, so now we've got a color for yes, a color for no. I can ask questions. Your subconscious changes the color of the ball, and we have a conversation. You weren't just deciding on the color. You were just watching that, looking at that, and the color was changing before your eyes. Correct? Good stuff. Now, hands up if you couldn't see the ball. Is it only me that can't? Oh no, there's one in the corner. Paul, you can't see the ball. Georgia, you can't see the ball. Right, I can't see the ball either. Do you know why that is? Because there's no freaking ball there, because it's not real. Now, I don't understand what people are doing. I'm a non-visualizer. You know, I close my eyes and imagine something. I see the backs of my eyelids. That's it. My mind says, of course you can't see anything, Tim. Your eyes are closed, yeah? But that's how my mind is interpreting these instructions. And everyone's different, as we know. Yeah, so visualizers can do that. But if you were auditory, we could do imagining like songs playing in our head, you know, and get your subconscious to change the channel on the radio to a different song, something like that. If we had, we could use, what is it? Olfactory is smelling, isn't it? Yeah. You know, I had one lady that we were chatting with her. She couldn't do ideomotor responses. She couldn't see an imaginary ball. But she could do smells really well. Because like when she was talking about a particular brand of soap we've got in UK called Imperial Leather. Do you have that in the USA? Yeah. And she loved, I don't know, well, how did we end up talking about that? I have no idea, but we did anyway, for some reason. There you go. Rapport building skill. Talk about your favorite soap. But anyway, and as she was talking about it, she was kind of snipped, you know, she was acting like she could. I said, could you smell that? She said, yeah, it's like it's under my nose. A bit later on, we were talking about family and pets, and she said, I love dogs, but I don't have dogs anymore because I can't stand the smell of wet dog. And obviously in the winter, it's very rainy here, so the house would be stinking of wet dog all the time. And she was turning her nose up as she was saying it, and you could tell she could sort of smell it. Anyway, we did a session where I would ask a question. She'd have her eyes closed, funnily enough, that's just how she was doing it. And she'd sniff, and if she smelled Imperial Leather soap, that was a yes. If she smelled wet dog, that was a no. Yeah. And that's how we got her to stop smoking, you know? So you'd be surprised how easy it is to work with your subconscious when you have a direct line of communication with it. Yeah. By the way, I tell you, you visualizers, right? I don't get you at all, because I'll tell you, right. So I was doing a session once with a group of people, and I used my right hand to put and I said, who can see the ball? And half the room put their hand up. And I was like, oh, hang on. I want to click my fingers. Don't I? I'm not so good at clicking my fingers with my left hand. And so I was like, oh, okay, anyway, look, just let me know when you can see the ball. And nobody put their hand up after that. And I was sitting there for about 20 seconds. I was like, can nobody see the ball? And one of them said, well, it's in the other hand, isn't it? I was like, really? That's where we're going with this, aren't we? So yeah, you visualizers, you're weird. I'm just going to say that, right? I think I'm the normal one. That's what I think anyway. Right. Okay. So I'm just have I got time to zip through a couple more slides, Melanie? Have I got, or am I?
We've got time here. Is everybody else keen to listen and learn? I think we're all on. Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
good.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. So I appreciate I've been talking very fast tonight. I know that I talk fast anyway, but I talk especially fast when I'm trying to get through a lot of material very quickly. But the thing obviously I can't go through, I haven't got time to go through, is things like how we structure the conversation, how we leverage that communication and get the changes that we're looking for, you know, in terms of removing the barriers. I'm sure you'll have your own ideas about how to do that because, you know, you're therapists, that's what you do. But the way that I do it, that's what the control system is. That's kind of just taking that idea of some direct form of communication and then working on that basic principle that you're talking to a part of the subconscious or a member of the crew, if you like, that is trying to find the best strategy for the most happiness, how we allow that part to achieve that. Yeah. So, but the one thing I do want to say is it's kind of the advantages of using either the control system or some form of non-trance method. Okay. So firstly, it's more empowering for the client. Remember, we were talking about that idea that basically you are conscious at all times. So now you're not having something done to you. You're taking part in it. It's a conversation between you and the client and their subconscious. The number of times the client gets involved in that conversation because they've got things coming into their mind that I couldn't possibly have thought of or possibly have understood without them getting involved and talking to me about it. I saw one of the first clients I saw that was before I really formalized the structure of this method. And I was just using it was only about a couple of years in before I sort of abandoned trance. She came back for a follow-up session. We'd done one and she came for a follow-up. And I said, how have you been? And she said, you know what, when I left here, 10 out of 10, amazing, felt great. I was like, awesome stuff. And she said, then it was a few days later, something happened and I realized, it's not quite 10 out, it's not quite spot on. It's like 7 or 8 out of 10. And I said, well, we can just work on that today then and get the last bits done. And she said, well, funny enough, she said, after that happened, I did that method that we did here. I had a conversation with my own subconscious and, yes, 10 out of 10 now. She said, I don't need you, do I? And I was like, oh, hang on, someone's noticed. But then I thought, well, no, that's a good thing, isn't it? That I send the client away literally with the power in their own hands. And that was when it kind of dawned for me, oh yeah, that's the point. Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I'm a big fan of empowering the client. And I think this is why I enjoy working this way so much, because it does that. It's easier and more enjoyable for you and the client. And I can't stress this enough. It's, because you're constantly having a conversation with the client, they're not afraid of you doing something to them. They're taking part in it. And I have fun during my sessions. You know, even if we're dealing with, you know, depression, I know the client's going to laugh at some point because we're going to do things that they're going to find amazing. And we're going to give them back hope because they're doing things they didn't realize were possible. I remember one client I had, which still freaks me out to think about it now. She was quite out there. Does that phrase translate in terms of, you know, the universe, that kind of thing, stars, and yeah. And we did, well, I forget what we were working on now, to my shame. I can't remember exactly what we were working on, but I was talking to her fingers and we asked for the change. It agreed to the change. I said, okay, let's make the change. You know, I'll click my fingers, do it, signal yes when it happens. Yeah. Click my fingers. And she started sort of a lot of breathing going on. You know, if she was in trance, I might be thinking, oh no, is she going to have an ab reaction right now? But she was just sort of, ooh, like this, you know, we were both enjoying what was going on there. If you know what I mean, it's like, isn't this interesting? What's occurring right now? Quite breathy, quite hyperventilating, and then calm down. And then, whew. And I said, what happened there then? And she said, well, the stuff from this life cleared straight away. But it was 2 other lives worth of stuff that's what the breathing was about. And I was like, yes, sometimes that happens. Yeah. Even though that's not really my model of working, if you know what I mean. But it's interesting what the client brings. I remember another guy I had who was, you know, we were working with a crew member in this hand, and suddenly this finger came up out of nowhere, and he looked over at it and he said, oh, that's money. And I was like, what do you mean? And that was the crew member in charge of making sure he provided for his family, making sure they didn't run out of money. That was all the anxieties surrounding that. So you just never know what you're going to get. It's a very interesting way of working. Subversion of expectations. As I've already said before, I didn't like the idea that the person that was coming to see me had seen The Simpsons or had seen whatever popular representation of hypnosis was in the media at the time and decided they knew what they were to expect from a hypnosis session. The fact that you just don't go anywhere near, eyes closed and imagine, it blows their minds in terms of the expectations. And the fact that you're telling them exactly how it's going to work. I don't want to just buy into people's expectations. I want to exceed their expectations. You tell them to put their hands on their lap or on their shoulder and you get their fingers moving involuntarily. That is much better than I found that lovely and relaxing. What an enjoyable, peaceful, relaxing session that was. Because now they're going away with, hey, that's never happened before. I wonder what else that's never happened before could happen for me now. Yeah, it opens up new possibilities for them. I always use the example that if an electrician came into my building to rewire, actually, I did have a guy rewiring my fuse box. Yeah. And if I'd have said to him, oh, you're putting the blue wire in there and the brown wire in there. I thought the blue wire went there and the brown wire went there. That's what I was expecting. The electrician wouldn't then say, oh, okay, just to meet your expectations of what this experience is going to be for you, I'll put them the other way round. Yeah. Because that would be the expert taking advice from the person who knew bugger all about electrics and screwing up the job completely. So when a client says to me, as they seldom, but sometimes do, oh, I thought you were going to put me to sleep. That's not how it works. Yeah. I'll be like, oh, there you go then. Wouldn't you know it? It was different than you expected. The thing you saw on The Simpsons wasn't actually how it works. Who knew? You know? You don't get it didn't work as a thing either. I used to dislike that on the occasion that it didn't work, you know, because the way I'm working, we're having a conversation. If you've got a technique or a method that you use and it doesn't work, okay, now you need to use a different tool, a different method. What other method shall I use? And you've already lost the faith of the client a little bit because the first one, the one you thought was going to work, didn't work. If it's just a conversation, they come back and they say it's complete, it's done. Great, the work is complete. Lovely stuff. Let's finish the conversation, say congratulations, consolidate the work, get that part to carry on doing it, keep up the good work, that sort of thing. If they come back and say it's not right still, the conversation is incomplete. We can just continue the conversation. Understand why that part wasn't able to make the changes that we know it wants to make. Yeah, we're further along the line. We just got to continue that journey. Yeah. And finally, no hypnosis barriers. What I mean by that is it's quite difficult to go into corporates, to schools, to places of business and present hypnosis. I'm going to now do some hypnosis with your staff. There's resistance to that. So if all I'm doing is talking about your subconscious and getting access to your subconscious and your automatic patterns, it's a lot easier to promote what you do. Yeah. Plus, you know, there's a certain amount of benefit you get from simply being able to demonstrate little idiomotor responses to people. You don't have to, you know, when they say, what is it you do? Oh, well, come by, you know, I'll do a trance session for you and you can experience it. What is it you do? Well, put your hand on the table and I'll show you what I do. Yeah. I have a friend of mine called Karen, and I met her about 10 years ago. And at one of the networking things, she said to me afterwards, can you show me what you talk about the subconscious? What do you mean? And we got a little finger just wiggling. She wasn't a great responder. We had a very tiny little idiomotor response round the table at a coffee shop where we were having a business networking event. Yeah. But it was enough to blow her mind. And, you know, I say that was 10 years ago. I haven't spoken to Karen for about 5 years. But she sent me the latest client she referred to me about a month ago because she still refers to me because her finger wiggled. Yeah. It's surprising what people will latch onto. Bad side of that, though, is, of course, then that every networking event I bumped into her at for the next God knows how long, she would gesture at me across the room and go, oh, Tim, hey, like that, which is not the sort of signal you really want a woman at a networking event chucking across the room at you. But, you know, not a common side effect of that. But anyway, so that's the reasons why I work this way. And that's to be fair, that's the reason why I train others in this method, because I think it comes from a slightly different place to what we're taught normally. I don't think it's a challenging concept to understand, but it's just I think it's a little, well, I see it as an upgrade, but probably it's like a more of a sidestep from where you are, possibly. But if you are interested, if you might be interested in learning how to do it, that's how it happens. I do 8 days of training with somebody. There's a little bit of home study. I asked you to produce case studies, all the usual stuff, and you get ongoing support during that whole process. In fact, we have scheduled support sessions after we finish the formal training. And then there's a final review with me to check you know what you're doing, that sort of thing. If you want any more details on that, by the way, because that's just a very brief précis, there's my email, tim@thecontrolsystem.co.uk. So if you want to know more about what I do, if you've got any questions about what I've spoken about today, well, you get to ask them in a moment. But if there's anything that springs to mind after I've finished or after this evening, stroke this afternoon for you, isn't it? Forgot about that. Then get in touch with me and I'll do my best to answer any queries that you have. Okay, oh, blimey, I've raced through that. I've still run over time. I did say it, didn't I, Melanie?
Oh, you're fine. Thank you.
Okay, let me stop sharing this. Right, okay, cool. Any, this is the point where I can take questions if anyone has any questions.
I'm sure we've got many. Yeah, there's Art. Go for it. And yet when you're asked a question, please say who you are, where you're from, and if you want to say how long you've been in hypnosis, please do. Thank you, Art.
Cool.
Okay, Art Emmerich in Sarasota, Florida, and been in practice for about 45 years now.
Cool.
And I'm beginning to have opinions, kind of like you are, Tim, I guess. I was just wondering if you could comment, what do you see as your connection, if any, with parts therapy, which is a very popular thing?
Yeah, I think parts. So I'm not completely aligned with parts therapy because from what I've heard about parts therapy, it's not exactly that part of it, as in different members of the crew, is about as close as I get to parts therapy. Yeah, I don't think there are archetypes there. I'm very much talking to crew members that will all use different emotions to sail the ship at different times. Yeah, but I've heard it said that it is kind of like a slightly, again, step to the side version of parts therapy, but I've also heard it's a lot less complicated in terms of the exact processes that you're meant to use, because my mantra is keep it simple. First thing John taught me was keep it simple. And that was the only thing, probably by the time he died, that was the only thing we actually dead set agreed on, was to keep it simple, because we've both been in practice long enough to realize that it's, if we join our client in all of their complexities with a complex method and a complicated system, then we don't get as good results as if we just keep it simple, keep it as simple as possible, But yeah, the parts therapy question does come up. And you know what? I keep thinking I should probably do some more research into parts therapy so I can actually categorically tell you the similarities and the differences. But I'm not formally trained in parts, so I can't do that. I'd misrepresent parts therapy, to be fair, if I did that. So, but that's, as I understand it, that's the crew aspect of it is where it is similar.
Okay. Thank you. That's good.
No problem. I hope I'm still doing it in 45 years.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, I'm more likely to be dead, I think, but in that time.
Well, don't do that, because I just looked at my age, and the goal of having a triple digit age is only 15 years away from me. So I mean, I can
really
15
Let's do
years
it.
with
That's
my eyes
amazing.
closed here,
I would not have guessed that, Art. I mean, that's not
So
me
I'm
just being
thinking
nice.
I'm going to be 100-year-old hypnotist here. That's my goal.
Yes.
I hope you've got that website already, because that will have be gone otherwise, wouldn't it?
Awesome.
Nice one. Thank you for the question, Art. Any more for any more?
I had a question. I was just curious. So how can this can be integrated like at any point of any session? Because I feel like, because I do a lot of parts work. I do a lot of parts work. So I feel like what you said with the part is very similar to getting those parts to shift and to make that shift while they're in the hypnotic state. So I see the value in adding different techniques and trying to get shifts as quickly as possible. How would like something like this be integrated into integrated, or is it like a one-off? Like
Let me ask you, Joe, have you ever tried to get those parts to make the shift when not in a hypnotic state?
That's exactly what, yeah. So a lot of my intakes, we see shifts happening, right? But I know it can get a little bit deeper. So that's exactly what I mean. Like, during the intake, right? Adding some of this in there to be able to start getting the shifts happening right away. And then,
so this is, so I do an initial consultation.
Okay.
Yeah, that is kind of, I do it as a free, just, hey, let's meet. I've got a kind of, you get some irrational bees in your bonnet sometimes, and an irrational bee in my bonnet that I've got is that I don't think I want to charge money if I don't know if I can work with you yet. Yeah, and I don't pretend that I can work with everyone. Not least, not just because, hey, we need to connect, they need to feel that I'm the right therapist for them, but also because not everyone's going to do ideomotor responses on the first go. And I want to make sure you can do them. As I say, 9 out of 10 people can do it fine, but I don't want to take on a client and then in session 1 find, oh no, that thing that I really like doing, I can't do it, because then it's going to put the kibosh on things that I actually want to do. So I always do a consultation, and we inevitably talk through things in terms of what we feel, where we are, where we want to be, what the barriers might be. And yeah, you're right. Shifts start to occur before we actually get into that first session proper. I do a 3-session protocol, by the way. That's what I've done for years. I just like working that way. I think people like to buy programs rather than session by session. It allows them to feel like, okay, you're taking me seriously. You're not just saying, hey, one and done, you'll be great, that kind of thing. And also it says that we've got a finite process that we're going to do here. We're not just going to say, well, we'll see how we feel as we go. Who knows how many sessions it'll be. I think people like to say, right, if I engage with this thing, I've just done this consultation with Tim. If I engage with this, I know it's 3 sessions. I know it will cost me this amount of money, and that's it. Yeah. And if by the end of the consultation, they feel confident that they're going to get a result, and I feel confident we're going to get a result, then hopefully we can both move forward, best foot forward. I do ideomotor responses in that first consultation. I make sure, and that's the thing for them a lot of the time. That's what you get, somebody that's in despair a little bit. I don't know if you've ever heard that thing, oh, you're my last hope. I've tried everything else except you, which they haven't, but that's their perception. That's their perspective. As soon as you get their fingers wiggling, they're like, well, that's different than anything I've ever done before. Even if they've done hypnotherapy before, they've not done that before. So there's a bit of them saying, right, this is the different thing that I was looking for. This is something that is outside of the realms of what I've experienced before. And the fact that part of their mind has already engaged just in that first meeting, there's a bit of them saying, oh, I think this gives me hope. Yeah. And a lot of the time you give someone hope back, and the lion's share of the work is done. Yeah.
I call it the bottle of hope. Give them a little bottle of hope. And that's
nice.
That's all they need. That's it.
Nice. I like it. Yeah.
My thought, Joe, as you asked that question, because I was already thinking it before you asked it, not surprising, is that because I do love to learn and then apply. So I've just learned something. So I'm thinking next time I've got somebody and I want to work with parts, I may actually have them do whatever we were doing in trance a little bit, and then have them open their eyes and sit there and stare at my pine cone, which is a beautiful statue. And we'll do it with their eyes open, and we can play. Like, why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
This is the thing. I think
I won't call it the control system because I don't actually know the system, but I can use.
No, absolutely. But
I can and I will.
The thing I would say is that the way I structure it, this is probably more a direct answer to your question, actually, Joe. Yes, you can integrate it into what you already do, because it's a very flexible, you can see how flexible it is, where just at any point that you're actually talking to your client, you can say, hey, let's have a go at this. Let's do something about this, But at the same time, what I train is a full consultation 3-session protocol. So I do train people from scratch who've never done any hypnosis or hypnotherapy before. And we've got people, that I know. Well, I know Sarah Wellband is on this call. This is her only hypnosis discipline that she knows, and she gets great results with clients. We've got Sarah Jane O'Neill in Ireland, who has only got this as a discipline. She was speaking at the Irish Hypnosis Conference this year. So it's a complete system. But at the same time, for you guys that know what you're doing in the trance realm and in everything, all the other methods that you've got, you can dip your toe into it. You can insert it into various bits of session. So I think it's fairly flexible, because I think a good method always is, isn't it? Because you've got that X factor in front of you, the other human being You know, this is what gets me about people when they say we can guarantee 100% results. No, you can't, because you don't know who's going to walk through the door. Yeah. So if you say that, then you believe that you and your technique is a cure-all, and it doesn't matter who comes in front of you, you will sort that out for. And that's not true, is it? You know, that it's always about the person in front of you. So yeah, I think that's why it has to be flexible.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I
Does anybody
appreciate
else have any
No problem.
questions?
No problem.
Y'all are amazing. It's good to see your faces today. Thanks for having them on.
Thank you.
You know, the thought that came to me early on when because you had said, you know, if you find this completely, you know, you're contrary to all of that I'm saying, you can let me know, right? They don't think this is right. And I was actually going to put in the chat, feel free to put any questions you have as he's going in there, because you would think there's a lot of parts of us hypnotists who that there's you just want to argue a little bit. But the bottom line is we're told, and it's true, your clients don't care what toolbox you're using. They just want the change. And it's extraordinary change. And you're still working with the subconscious. The question I might have asked, but I don't need to now, thankfully, is, well, how is this different from coaching? Because obviously it's not, it's very different. Because you're still working with the subconscious. So as we're going live and we're sharing this video with people who are just interested in hypnosis and haven't had any training, they might be thinking, oh, well, I'm a coach, I'm good, I've got it, Tim says. But that's not what you're doing. This is still deep change work. It's what the client gets extraordinary results fast. And that's the beauty.
Exactly. This is the thing. I always wanted to be the hypnotist. I was excited about the idea that I would be a hands-on, direct, phenomena-based hypnotist. That's what I've always wanted to be. And even though I'm not now using eyes closed trance, you know, the way I work is more fulfilling than that, because I am doing direct phenomena work, and we get to do that thing where we blow people's minds. That's what, you know, that's my ego. I know that's just, you know, that doesn't serve anyone.
The ego drive you when it's serving humanity. I think it's okay.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
I get that totally, but you know, so yeah, absolutely. Go on, Art, you got another question.
So Tim, you've moved on in the hierarchy of things that I heard one of my teachers said, don't be a hypnotist. Be hypnotic.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And now, so if you're hypnotic, it doesn't make any difference what you're doing. You're doing it in a hypnotic fashion. And what that means is you're speaking to the unconscious, not to the conscious.
I agree. I agree with that totally. And this is the thing. I think this is why we get these spontaneous changes without really doing any hypnosis formally, is because, you know, we don't need hypnosis for our mind to learn and upgrade. You know, we're doing it all the time. If we can conversationally remove barriers that are blocking them right now, you know, just by talking to them, just by opening up ideas, then we don't need to get the fingers wiggling. We don't need to tell them to close their eyes and go deeper and deeper into trance, you know, because we've addressed the issue that was why that bit of our mind was saying, I'd love to get you here, but I can't because this thing is true. But if it's not true anymore, then we're there. And I take the point about being hypnotic. I don't think I'm tremendously hypnotic though. I think I'm more annoying than hypnotic, I think. But I mean, you know, not by design, but just I think by unfortunate happenstance. But you know,
no, we can all say no. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, go ahead, Art. Sorry.
I once went to a 2-day course, and I realized after the first day that I shouldn't even be here. And so halfway through the second day, I said, we've spent a lot of time on you telling us 29 different ways to get a client to close their eyes when they're working with you. Why does that make any difference one way or the other? Their eyes are open, their eyes are closed. He said, well, if their eyes are open, it just makes me uncomfortable. So we went in a 2-day course to make him comfortable. You know, that we were learning how to make him comfortable.
That's wild.
It was amazing.
You know, I will plant this here. I had a client years ago who, when she opened her eyes, finally at the end, she did manage to close her eyes. She said, Melanie, you just helped me more than 17 years of therapy. Okay. So this is back when I was, you know, having ask her to close her eyes so she could at least access what she was supposed to be accessing. I said, great, next time will you close your eyes? But now I don't care if they close their eyes. I just have them stare at the pine cone. And I just got and just today, I don't think it's coincidence, I got another beautiful testimonial from somebody replying to my newsletter that said, you know, you helped me more than 7 years of therapy to relieve grief and pain. And I think she was another one that I had staring at the pine cone. So it's all good. It all works.
How about, why don't I tell you what, Melanie, why don't you try just telling they can look wherever they want? You know, I don't.
Yeah, but they can. But in my office, when they're sitting in that chair,
you bought that
front of
pine
them
cone, so they bloody well better look at it.
There is a focus, or they can look, actually, when I put people, when I'm working with people for smoking, I actually start it with something that I came up with, the tree that's outside and how the tree's leaves will restore if there's a storm or pollution. And I don't know if you're like the tree turned inside out, or if the tree's like us turned outside in, but you're going to restore because you already made the decision to not smoke today. And you're going to see that tree when you close your eyes. 3, 2, 1, boom. They like it. So they might be staring at a tree or the pine cone. I don't care what they stare at. It's focus.
Yeah,
Focus and
again,
their outcome.
So this is again. I mean, I know I'm you know, backing up here to what we were talking about before.
I know it, and you want to teach me, and I want to know.
Well, this is the thing. I'm just sort of suggesting that. How about if we just said that focus was irrelevant in terms of conscious where we focus? What if we just try? So if you guys are thinking, oh, what, I want to try something out here. So I got into the habit of saying, just because I messed up one day, or something occurred to me as I was saying it, I said, you can be eyes open, eyes closed. You can stare around the room, stare at me. Actually, don't stare at me. That'd be weird. And that's then I just started saying that with every client. And so they laugh and they stop worrying about where they're focusing. And then we just get the fingers moving. And that was the thing. It was like, a lot of people do close their eyes when they're doing the idiomotor responses, just because I think it's more comfortable for them, you know, that I think, or whatever, you know, but when I'm working online, I know we did this here so that we could all, you know, not have to move our cameras, but I do them on the desk. So I've got 10 digits rather than 5. And if they did this, that just looks weird to me. And I can't see their face. So I don't know if their eyes are open or closed. I don't know where they're looking, you know. They'll interrupt me at some point. They'll say, oh, you know what's just come into my mind? But it's not like there's necessarily like, I want you to fixate on a certain point or focus on a certain point. Because for me, it's like what they're doing consciously. I feel like it's part of that redundant stuff that maybe isn't necessary, or that we make necessary by thinking it's necessary. And again, this isn't designed to sort of invalidate people's process, because again, I think as soon as you say, right, focus on this spot, a bit of them saying, here we go, we're going into trance. So it helps them get into the zone that maybe they've been expecting to go into. So it has a purpose, doesn't it? I guess my thing that I talk to people about is, what if it's a philosophy thing to do this, by the way. It's the critical thinking. It's like, what have I assumed that I didn't realize I'd assumed because I learned it so early on that I no longer understand exactly why that thing is true. It just is to me. You know, I no longer think about why it's true. And there's loads of stuff in hypnosis we're taught as a kind of do it this way, do it this way. And you're like, oh, hang on, what if I, you know, why is that bit then? What if it wasn't necessary? Let's try it without that and see what happens, you know? And I think that's all this method is born from, is saying, what could I strip back? You know, the philosopher Descartes, you know, he did a philosophical exercise of trying to doubt everything that he couldn't categorically prove. And that's where we got, I think, therefore I am from. The only thing that he absolutely couldn't doubt was his own existence, because he was thinking about it and he must exist as a thinking being. That's the whole point of that. My point was, well, what have we assumed in a hypnosis process that if we stripped back, would it still be would it still qualify as what we're doing? So, sorry, you pulled my chain.
Okay, and it all comes down to no, thank you. And it all comes down at the end of the day, what does the client want? Yeah. And if it works, and you don't have, they want
their result, don't they? Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Can everybody give him a great big thank you? You know how to use the reactions. Send him some hearts and some.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful things, you know. Awesome. Thank you so much, Tim, sincerely.
Very welcome.
And you can, for those who are here, you can drop in the chat your email if you'd like. And you can also drop it in the group where the live stream was. Just let me share a bit of info with you here now, for those of you who are still with us. First of all, I was remind you that Hypnosis Education Association is a not-for-profit organization, and it runs with people just like Tim. And you don't have to be a trainer of hypnosis in order to be a speaker. So if you have something that you'd love to speak on, you're welcome. You can visit the Hypnosis Education website and you'll find a call for presenters. So I'll put that there. And we need volunteers. I'm just going to use the word need. I don't like to use the word need. I could say I deserve and and I expect, and I'll say that too. But at this point, actually, I say we could use your help. I have just dropped in the comments of this Zoom a link to our contest that we're running for our annual conference. Your sharing that helps us with our mission. But we could also use people for helping us to get these meetings out there, for public outreach and social media moderators in the group and that sort of thing. So if you'd love to support the Hypnosis Education Association with more than just a membership, then please do let us know. Reply to any of the emails that you get from us, and we will make sure we find a place for you. And announcing the Hypnosis Education Association's first annual virtual conference 2024. We are incredibly excited for the upcoming conference in September. And as I said, I just dropped the share link for the contest in the chat of this. Please do register for the contest and share it, because this is how we're actually growing awareness for the Hypnosis Education Association to people who didn't know about today, didn't know what was coming up, don't know what's coming up. And we really appreciate your shares. And finally, next month, before the conference, we actually have Dr. Margaret Wallace, who is actually bringing hypnotherapy to prisons. I am really excited to hear about her work in the prison system. So right now, for a limited time, last little announcement is when you get your conference ticket, you actually get an annual membership to HEA, which includes your being listed on our website as a practitioner. And if you're a trainer, as a trainer. So definitely take a look at the conference register and you get all of that too. All right, with that, I'm going to say, awesome. We don't have any comments here or any questions in the comments. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you again so much, Tim. And for all of you being here with us live, we'll see you again this time next month. Be well. Bye-bye. Thank you.